Good morning, folks. My Green Mountain Grills Jim Bowie has been faithful to me for years, about 9 to be exact. My combustion fan's out. Now I'm in a conundrum. My pellet smoker's not working. I need to smoke a brisket all day today because I'm working the night shift tonight. I need to get some rest during the day, so I can't really babysit it. But I'd really like to smoke a brisket so that we can eat on it throughout the week here at the house for lunches, suppers, and so on. I've heard a lot of claims about a Kamado smoker being set it and forget it, much like a pellet grill, much like an ugly drum smoker. Today, we're going to test that out. Let's go over cooking a brisket in a Kamado smoker. Got a good bark, everything's holding on. If I've told you once, I've told you a billion times how impressed I am with how energy efficient this cooker is. This is after 3 or 4 cooks. There's still a ton of lump charcoal in there. We're going to add a little bit more and some wood chunks. First thing we're going to do before we add any is get what's in here lit up really well. I know before you've seen me throwing the fire cup underneath the ash can, and I think that's too much of an air gap for it. I need to call Anthony and invest in a fire bridge. It's a little cage that goes over the fire cup. Keep it protected. So place it in the middle, get it lit, and then I like to pile everything around it, leaving air gaps. Don't want to smolder anything. We're just gonna get it some protection there, and then we'll push everything around it. We'll put a few over the top, making sure that we're not smoldering it. See, that one's not touching anything, so we're just gonna let it sit over top, push everything closer. We're going to leave it alone for about 20 minutes. I'll go grab some wood chunks. I think that's all we'll have to add is more wood chunks, maybe a couple of briquettes for longevity. We're going to let that burn for about 15-20 minutes. We'll be back. All right, folks, as we wait on our fire to build up so we can get it all situated, add a little bit more coals and wood, we're going to go ahead and get our brisket trimmed up and start on seasoning. So for today, we're going to be hitting up a Choice brisket, XL Choice brisket, full packer brisket. So we're going to get it out of the casing, get it all nice and clean, and take off some of this hard fat, get it shaped nicely, take off some of this silver skin, these hunks, all this good stuff, make it shaped nice, and then we're going to get it flavored up. I'm also going to be checking a theory about fat side up or down on a Kamado. Now, I'm the loudest one to preach that fat goes in between the heat and the meat for insulation purposes. However, I'm learning these Kamados, which I guess it'd still be the same, right, between the heat and the meat for insulation purposes. But I'm learning that these Kamados don't just cook straight up when you have them set up correctly. These Kamados, when set up correctly, they actually convect all around. So, yeah, I'm going to go fat side up on this cook. All right, take this bad boy off. Shape it a little bit. Got a lot of hard fat right there. But you're kind of gouged my brisket there. Let's just go ahead and spin it around here. See that fat? There's a lot of fat right there for some reason. Well, I know why, but it is what it is. They left it on there, sold it to me. Of course, I got these on sale. When they have sales, I literally load up my freezer. I go buy. They have a limit of 2, so I go buy 2 at a time at different stores. And I always dig through their bins because it's supposed to be a sale on select briskets. But in order to meet the order needs, the suppliers will throw in Choice briskets as well, just to get the numbers that the buyers demanding from them. So, you see sales, dig through there. You will find better cuts of beef for super cheap. I think these were $1.49 a pound. So wasn't mad about that. Of course, seeing now I'm paying for a bunch of fat. Yeah, get all that. That's all right though. Still cheaper than a bowl choice or anything else. So just gonna keep going, keep hacking at it, baby. That's all right. I scalped it a little bit there. Didn't mean to. It's okay. Not a big deal. We're not worried about scalping this side. The point's going to hold up on its own just fine. This flat, however, not great to scalp, but I really needed to get this in. Kind of opened up. It's a hard chunk right there. It keeps throwing me off. It's that separating decal. Let's get this ridge down here. So again, like I said, we will be cooking this fat side up. Pretty flat and even there. We are going to round off these bottom edges. Just going to take there, there. Hopefully, this Kamado cooker, if it works as advertised, and as guys that know them a lot better than I do, like Smoking Dad Barbecue, Eat More Vegans. Ouch! Scalped that one hard. Know more about these than I do. These Kamado grills. They say they cook very, very evenly, and I'm hoping that they're correct. We're just going to take a little bit of this off. Not a ton. We're not too worried about it. It's not a competition. But stuff that's loose on top like that, we do want to go ahead and take off. See how that's just kind of loose on top? Just going to take that off. I could do this all day long. All right, let's see. Let's get this super hard fat off of here as much as possible without gouging. So what we're going to do to help this this fat here render down is we're going to expose it, and then we're going to just stab it a few times. You can do the same thing with a fork and a ribeye. That fat that's in the eye of a ribeye. At some point, I have to stop myself. I have to make myself stop. Okay, so seasoning time. We are going to be using pickle juice, just dill pickle juice, as a little bit of a binder. It won't take much. Just go ahead and get it rubbed down. The antioxidants in this pickle juice really help break down fat and render fat, especially that harder stuff right there. We've got that binder on, so we're going to hit it with a little bit of ground black pepper first. That's something to stick to. Now this is a very coarse ground black pepper. Very coarse. And this is my favorite. I like a very coarse black pepper. You do what you like. Obviously, if you like a little more fine grade stuff, then use it. I mean, and if the combination of flavors that I use today you don't like, use what you like. Use some Uncle Steve. Use some Cosmos. Use some Texas oil dust. You know, use some Suckle Busters. Use all those if that's what you like. I just want to keep it super simple today with a profile that I absolutely adore and know that works. Don't want to overcomplicate the flavors when I'm testing out a cooker, pretty much. All right, so seasoned salt on top of that. We're going to go pretty liberally. We can go super heavy with this, even though it is a finer salt. And ingredients, we can go super heavy with it, because even on the thin side of this cheap brisket, you're looking at a couple inches deep. So, super liberal. That side first. Let's get the sides nice and coated. Very good. This point nice and coated. Flats all coated. All right, now we're going to top that off with just regular old table salt. Now, I used to use kosher salt with the larger granules, but I realized that using iodized table salt on a large cut like this actually penetrates and gives better flavor to the meat. That's my opinion, but I like a very salty beef, and so that's what I like to make. That's why I've switched from kosher salt to regular table salt. Got a lot of pepper on this side already. Just going to hit it with a little bit of that pickle juice just to make sure we have the same profile on every side. Pepper. I guess my chickens are waking up this morning. They're being very vocal over there. One of them must have laid an egg. Just bragging about it. Alright, so we got our pepper. This is our top side. Okay, and this is the fat side. So we can go super heavy on everything. Because flavor doesn't penetrate through fat, but you can flavor the fat. And your bark needs to have a ton of flavor on the fat side because that's pretty much all the seasoning that side's going to have. So get it hammered on there for sure. Got a great coating of that. And if you'll notice, I'm using one hand for seasonings and one hand for the meat, just to avoid cross-contamination. All right, let's hit it with some salt. We'll go check on our fire. It's been about 10 minutes since we lit our Tiger McCool fire cup, and I'm thinking that fire is probably good to go. We're going to let this sit. We're going to go add some more charcoal. So we got a nice hot zone right there in the middle. We're going to throw more charcoal around it with a couple of chunks of cherry wood. I found that I kind of like that cherry wood profile. It's not necessarily sweet or tastes like cherry, but it does have a very clean flavor profile. So I'm going to add some more chunks and some chunks of cherry there. And I'm actually going to be using, instead of more lump charcoal, some charcoal briquettes. They burn a little bit different than lump charcoal, but I like mixing briquettes in with lump on my drums, and so I figured it wouldn't hurt to mix them here as well, using up some of this last of the Blues Hog briquettes that I got. I do love B&B. I will never not use B&B lump charcoal and competition char logs, but I'm not exclusive to them. I do use Blues Hog as well. We're not throwing a ton of chips in here. We just want a few. Now, we're going to let that burn, and we got to let this set up. These ceramic cookers take a long time to get hot because you're not just heating this area and this area. You're heating this about an inch and a quarter of ceramic all the way around, and you got to heat that all the way through before you can really stabilize your fire. So, as we're letting that happen, we're going to go ahead and put our heat deflector on, and I like to flip this after every use, so not one side staying dirty, right? The way this heat deflector works, it makes that air, you can see it whipping around. See it? See that smoke just whipping around? It makes that air whip around. Now we're going to add a second layer to this. We're going to add in a pan here, and our grates are going to sit right on top of this pan. And to this pan, I'm going to add a couple of liters of water. We're going to add our grates, but we're going to leave this door open for another 10 minutes or so because we want this to get up to temp. Okay, we don't want to close this all down and start dilating and regulating until, like I said, we start getting this bottom ceramic nice and hot. Then we can close it down, open up the top, get the lid nice and hot. And honestly, I feel like that was some of my biggest frustrations with this smoker when I first got it. I didn't comprehend the fact that I had to not only get that fire hot, but also allow that ceramic to heat up before I could start dialing in my temperatures, because I'd always overshoot or undershoot. Either I never could get it to burn hot enough, or I got it to burn too hot every time, and it was really frustrating. Most of the time, because it does burn so efficiently, I can never get it hot enough, and that's because I just wasn't letting enough coals burn down and start that original base of burning coals. So we're going to let it burn for another 10 or so minutes. Our brisket's sweating in. It's allowing all those flavors to absorb. We'll come out here. We'll start shutting it down a little bit. Our goal temperature is going to be right at 275 degrees. We're going to shut it down a little bit at a time and let it have 20 minutes until we get it dialed in. And I'll show you where we end up being. All right, folks, we're settling down right around 300. I think it's going to keep dropping a little bit more to that 275 mark that we're aiming for. And so it's time for us to go ahead and place our brisket onto the smoker. Now, we've got our settings, the bottom and the top, at about 1/4 inch. The top, that equates to being right at the number 1, and at the bottom it's right around 3/4. So we're going to burp this, open it up, and again we're going to be placing this fat side up right over our water pan, and that's going to keep any of that heat directly hitting that brisket. And yeah, we're just going to let it cook for a while. I'm going to shut this down. I am going to check on it here in about 30 minutes and make sure it's running smooth. But other than that, I should be able to leave it alone for 3 or 4 hours and get a nap. All right, guys, so at our 3-hour mark, it's time to take a look and see how our brisket's doing. Looks like we're floating right around that 250, 275 mark. I may open these up a little bit more. Remember, the temperature up top is going to be a little different than the temperature down below, but I'm hoping that we're getting enough convection that this is pretty accurate all the way through. Looking good. No real dark spots anywhere that I'm seeing. Smelling the smoke come off of that cherry wood. I am probably going to add some more water to this. So let me go back. I'll add some more water to this. We'll get it shut down and let it keep going. It's the next day, guys. We started this brisket on our Acorn Kamado. We did a light trim on it. We hit it with just salt, seasoned salt, and coarse ground black pepper. It took about 9 hours on that thing, and after 6 hours, we did do a foil boat. We didn't add any fluids to it, no liquids. We just threw it in the smoker, foil boated, finished it off at 204 degrees. It was probing tender. When I got to work last night, I went ahead and put it in the crock pot on warm, and it's the next day. We're gonna have it for lunch here. So let's go ahead and pull it out, slice it up, see how it tastes. Look at all that tallow, a little bit of au jus and tallow in there. And we'll use that for dipping later. And there's quite a bit still in the foil. Not a bad bark on this brisket. It's still pretty warm on the bottom side. We did cook this fat side up, and that's why we did the double pan to try to keep it as indirect as possible in that Kamado grill. We're going to get that thrown to the side. We're going to slice this up and serve it out of the crock pot. Again, we just used this crock pot as a warming cabinet last night to hold it because we got to work and we had to go out of town. So we're going to start on our flat. This is the point in here, flat over here. Let's just take an end off and see how it looks. Got a decent little ring to it. May have gotten a little bit dry on the bottom, but we'll see. It's always the driest spot on the brisket. It's got a good bark. Everything's holding on. Good pull. Try it out, guys. Great flavor. Fat's nice and rendered. Good stuff, guys. If you got a Kamado grill, try out this method. This is my first time using my Acorn 4 brisket. I think it turned out great. Drink more water.